I'm addict named Josh, man. Grateful for the only promise of Narcotics Anonymous, which is the freedom from active addiction. And if you're new, welcome. You're the most important person at this meeting and any Narcotics Anonymous meeting, because we can only keep what we have by giving it away, man. So so that white key tag that someone just picked up could be the last white key tag that you ever have to pick up again, man. That 6 months that someone just picked up could be the last 6 months that you ever have to pick up again, man. Like, I'm here to tell you that you don't have to use no matter what, man. Like, you never have to use again no matter how you feel. It says it in this book right here, right? You know what? And when they told me that, I really couldn't relate, man. I was like, you don't know me, first of all. Like, you don't know what I've done. You don't know the places I've been. Like, you can't relate to me, man. Right? But there's a reading, man. Like, it doesn't matter how much, what you use or how much you use, who your connections were, what you have done in the past, how much or how little you have. They only wanted to know one thing from me, and we only want to know one thing from you, is what you want to do about your problem and how we can help, man. So, like, I'm here to tell you, man, that you never have to use again, man, and that holds true to my heart, man. So, like, I come with a little bit of a clarity statement. You guys are catching me on an offspring day, because usually I'm standing up and I'm pacing back and forth. But today I decided to break down the symbol. So you're going to have me, like, strapped to a chair right now. So it's a little bit different for me. But, so, man, can I get a raise of hands? Does anybody have, like, an understanding of the symbol of Narcotics Anonymous? Like, that you guys broke it down with your sponsor? Let me get a raise of hands. There's 30 people in this room, and I see... 1, 2, 3. I see six hands up, right? And that's why it's important for me to lean on the literature, right? Because the literature for me is black and white, right? In the Fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous, I have found extremely gray areas, right? Because there's 30 people in here, 40 people in here. If I ask for a solution, I'm going to get 39 different answers, right? When I go to the literature, it's black and white. It doesn't change. It has never lied to me before. It's a controlled solution, right? So that's why I chose the symbol, man, because the symbol is I can correlate everything in Narcotics Anonymous and break it right back down to the symbol. So if I'm going to talk about the symbol, I'm going to have to read it for you guys real quick. Simplicity is the key to our symbol. It imitates the simplicity of our fellowship. All sorts of occult and esoteric connotations can be found in the simple outlines. Our foremost in the minds of the fellowship are easily understood meanings and relationships. The outer circle denotes a universal and total program that has room within it for all manifestations of the recovering person. The square, whose lines are defined, is easily seen and understood, but there are other unseen parts of the symbol. The square base denotes goodwill, with the ground of both the fellowship and the members of our society. Goodwill is best exemplified in service. Proper service is doing the right thing for the right reason. When goodwill supports and motivates both the individual and the fellowship, we are truly whole and wholly free. Probably the last to be lost to freedom will be the stigma of being an addict. It is the 4 pyramid sides that rise from the base in the 3-dimensional figure that represents self, society, service, and God. All rise to the point of freedom. All parts are closely related to the needs and aims of the addict who is seeking recovery, and to the purpose of the fellowship, which is to make recovery available to all. The greater the base, as we grow in unity in numbers and in fellowship, the broader the sides of the pyramid and the higher the point of freedom. There was a lot of words in there that if you would have told me before I came here and I just tried reading, that I didn't understand. Right? Like, there's words in there, occult, esoteric connotations, like things like that I couldn't grasp, right? And it's only through understanding and application that this stuff works for me, right? And if I have to apply somewhere, I cannot apply anything before I understand it, right? So, like, and I love this because simplicity is the key to our symbol, man. Keys unlock doors, right? And simplicity is so important. You heard the slogan. I'm going to shoot a slogan out there for you, Nick. This is a simple program for complicated people, right? And it is. For me, man, I could complicate water, right? I could complicate toast. I could complicate anything, right? But it's so important to me that simplicity is the key to our symbol. It imitates. Imitates for me means copy, right? It copies the simplicity of our fellowship, right? And a symbol, if I think of a symbol, it's a representation, man. Like I have the symbol of Narcotics Anonymous on the back of my truck, on the back of my trailer, on some of my notebooks, and I'll be driving down the road, right? And once in a while, I'll see another symbol, right? And I'll catch it, right? And then I'll be like, whoa, that's a representation of Narcotics Anonymous, right? Because I know that they're an addict, man. They're just like me. And all sorts of occult and esoteric connotations, right? Occult is something that is not revealed, man, not easily understood, right? And esoteric is the knowledge that is restricted in a certain group. So there's things in this symbol that until my sponsor and other addicts broke it down for me, I didn't comprehend, man, right? The symbol, the circle, we hear a lot around here. Everybody mentions a diamond, right? But what I found in the literature that I cannot find a diamond representing the symbol, right? The symbol is a pyramid, right? Which is a square base, right? And the reason for me that I believe it's a square is because a square is made of 4 equal sides, right? 4 equal sides make a square, right? So I put a square, which is the base, which rises up to the point of freedom. So it talks about the circle, right? The circle, the outer circle denotes a universal and total program that has room within it for all manifestations of the recovering person, right? So that means the message of Narcotics Anonymous is that an addict, any addict, can stop using drugs, lose the desire to use, and find a new way to live, right? So that any addict is so important, man, right? Regardless of age, race, sexual identity, creed, religion, or lack of religion, right? We have these readings. That means that everybody is equal here, right? That means that it doesn't matter that I'm Jewish, man. It doesn't matter that someone's from New York, right? It doesn't matter that somebody's from Florida. It doesn't matter if you're male. It doesn't matter if you identify as a male. It doesn't matter. All these things, it doesn't matter, right? We have room for you inside this program, man, right? That outer circle for all manifestations of recovering addicts, man. That means, because addiction is a disease that consists much more than using drugs, right? So for me, my addiction started early with attention, from attention to video games, to chocolate, to bikes, to women, to sports, and on and on and on, right? So there's people in here right now that are suffering from the disease of addiction that has nothing to do with drugs, right? Because I know I could get locked and loaded and have nothing to do with drugs, right? I just did it the other night. I could get so locked and loaded in something, right? Drugs is far removed from me right now. However, my disease is still sitting with me, right? The fact that I have to obsess and compulse over certain things, man. So that's where that circle, it allows us to be all universal, man. Everything, man. A gambler, somebody who's gambling, man. Somebody who's eating too much, man. Somebody who's shooting a certain drug. Somebody who's sniffing a certain drug. We got room for everything in here, right? And then the square lines denote it is easily seen and understood, but there are other unseen parts of the symbol that I'm talking about. So the square, right? The square base has 4 sides, and it all starts with goodwill. So I could break down all 6 parts of this symbol with readings out of the literature, right? So the square base, which is goodwill, right? And we just talked about goodwill is best exemplified by service, and proper service is doing the right thing for the right reason. So if I come down to the introduction of Narcotics Anonymous, right, there's a service prayer that I usually read or I recite every time before I share. God, grant us knowledge that we may write according to your divine precepts. Divine precepts is, for me, means something divine is God, right? I know you guys some people might have a problem with the word God, right? But for me, divine means God, something spiritual, right? And precepts is is God's instructions, man. If you take one O out of goodwill, you have God's will, right? So it was so easy for me to comprehend what goodwill was, right? When I'm doing the right thing for the right reason, right? When I'm opening the door for somebody I don't even know, right? When I'm stopping on the side of the road, right? And instead of going around the person because they need help, man. I'm acting in spiritual principles. And everything starts in goodwill, which if I relate it to a reading, it relates to the introduction. And then we jump off to one side of the pyramid, which is self, right? And if I'm going to relate a reading to self, it's going to be who's an addict, man. Most of us do not have to think twice about this question. We know, right? If you're an addict, if you're in this room, there's a 99% chance you think you're an addict, right? I'm pretty sure. Like, it's Friday night. Nobody's just going to hang out at a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, right? So, like, bang. So I correlate that one side of the pyramid to who's an addict, man. And then if I jump over to the next side of that pyramid, so we had self. Now we jump over to society, right? What is Narcotics Anonymous program, right? There's a reading. We read it every reading. Narcotics Anonymous is a nonprofit fellowship or society of men and women for whom drugs have become a major problem. Like, there's the readings all correlate. I try to connect them and try to put them together. So if I think of society, that has to be the what is the Narcotics Anonymous program, right? Then if I jump, so I had self, I had society, and now I jump over to service, right? This is the 5th month, right? Everybody's aware it's the 5th month, right? This is the 5th tradition. What is our primary purpose? Our primary purpose is to carry the message to the addict who still suffers, right? Why are we here? We are here. I am here to give what I have, right? This is why I'm here. I believe that God has prepared me. Everything that I've been through has been a preparation of his plan, of his divine work. This is why I am here. I am here this day. Everything has lined up perfectly. All these unexpected vehicles of grace have lined me into this seat tonight to give what I have, to be of proper service. The only reason I'm here is to be of service. So there we have. We had self, society, and then we had service. So now if I jump over to the other side of the pyramid, because there's 4 sides of the pyramid, we have how, right? We have God. I have to correlate a reading to God, and the reading that I would correlate to it is how it works, right? If I want what you have to offer, and I was willing to make the effort to get it, and I was ready to take certain steps, right? These are the principles that made our recovery possible, right? It Works How and Why says that the only hope for recovery is a profound emotional and spiritual change, right? It says that in It Works How and Why. And I can't have a profound emotional and spiritual change without God as I understand him working in my life, man. When I practice these spiritual principles that I pull out of the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous, which are defined in how it works, that's how I correlate that side of the pyramid right there to how it works, right? So now that we have all 4 sides of this pyramid, we're reaching this point of freedom, right? So like it just said in here that probably the last to be lost to the freedom will be the stigma of being an addict. The stigma, when I think of stigma, I think of a mark of shame, right? Because if you're an addict like me, I can remember when my family didn't want nothing to do with me, right? When I was stuck in jail and nobody would answer the phone, right? When they would drive past me on, I was probably walking down Sunrise Highway or the LIE, right? And they would drive past me and they'd get phone calls. My mom would get a phone call like, yo, Josh is in Brentwood over there. Like, yo, they didn't want nothing. They were ashamed of me, man. But if I work all 4 sides of this pyramid, it reaches me to a point of freedom, right? A freedom that I do not suffer from a moral deficiency or a moral dilemma, man. I am an addict that suffers from the disease of addiction, which is we do recover, right? The reading we do recover. When at the end of the road, when we can no longer function as a human being, either with or without drugs. I faced the same dilemma, man. We all faced it. We had to make a choice. What was there left to do? We'd either go on to the bitter ends, jails, institutions, or death, right? And for me, I was in jails, right? I was in institutions. I was pronounced dead twice, man, right? All that stuff was easy for me. There's other things in this literature that it talks about dereliction, degradation, demoralization, right? The way I degraded myself while in active addiction, the way I demoralized myself, right? The way I was a derelict to my daughter, right? All these things because I didn't have no freedom. I was trapped by the chains of addiction, man. Anything for the next one, man. Anything for the next one. And now when I correlate all these parts of that pyramid and I get to that point of freedom, we do recover, man. We do recover because we do suffer from the disease of addiction. However, we do recover, right? So I try to break that down in all those readings, right? And there's so much more to this symbol, man. Listen. So each square, every square has a corner. And with these corners, we have 4 corners, right? 4 corners in a square. And I have to they're the foundation of my recovery, man. I build things. I own a construction business. And whenever I build something, every corner is important for something to hold something up, right? If there's one thing or anything that will feed us in our recovery, it is an attitude of indifference or intolerance towards spiritual principles, right? 3 of these that are indispensable are honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. With these, we are well on our way, right? You guys, we read that every meeting, right? So indispensable means I cannot do without it. So right away, I throw honesty in one side, honesty in one corner, open-mindedness in one corner, and willingness in one corner, right? And then I'm left with this other corner that I have to fill in. And for me, there's in step 11, it talks about surrender being a cornerstone of our recovery. Everything for me begins and ends with surrender, right? With all areas of my life, man. Like, I have to surrender. First, I had to surrender that I was an addict and that I needed help. I was powerless, right? And then I surrender over things multiple times a day, right? I had to surrender. I was just at the Reebok outlet and they didn't have what I wanted. The little store, I had these expectations, right, of Sawgrass Mall, not affiliated, like that it was going to be some great place, right? And I came here last week, a couple of weeks ago, and I seen people with all these different kind of Reeboks, and I got a Reebok problem, right? Because, like, the manifestation of my addiction happens in Reebok and Tommy Hilfiger right now. I'm dead ass. So, like, I had this obsession to go to this place, man. And when I got there, it was like a little hole in the wall, man. I was like, darn, man. But you know what I did? I surrendered, and I got what I needed anyway. You know what I mean? I got something anyway. But what I had to have some acceptance. And surrender and acceptance go together like peanut butter and jelly. Right? I can't have one without the other. So if I break down all those 4 corners of our pyramid, it breaks down to honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness, and then surrender, tucking in at the end, man. So, like, the symbol is so important for me. And this is why whenever I have a sponsee, I always go over the symbol with him, like, and I make sure that we define it in our own words. It's important, and then I make them give examples for a whole week of how self worked in his life, how society worked in his life, right? How service worked in his life, right? How God worked in his life, and what kind of point of freedom did he get from all those things working, right? So, like, if I have to think of me, like, it all starts with God as I understand him, man, right? That one side of the pyramid. And like I said, the base of goodwill, the base of our symbol is goodwill, right? So if I take out that, I just said it's God's will, living by a spiritual principle. So when I start off in God's will, doing the right thing for the right reason, I connect myself with God right away, right? And then once I start connecting myself with God on that one side of the pyramid, it allows me to connect with myself, man. Because if I'm at odds with you, I'm probably at odds with myself. And if I'm at odds with myself, I'm definitely at odds with God. Right? So once I can connect with God, it allows me to connect a little bit and start becoming a healthy member of society, right? Because now that I'm a healthy member and I'm a healthy person, I can have healthy relationships, man. This whole thing in Narcotics Anonymous is built around relationships, man. Addiction for me severed communications and relationships my whole life. Right? So I started with God and works to me, and then I become a member, and I bring society in, I bring Shane in, I bring Will in, and all of us together, we're a power greater than just me, and we can do some proper service, which is the other side of that pyramid. Right? All four sides of those pyramid correlate, and when we can all do that together, we reach to a point of freedom. That's why it says in here, man, the greater our base, man, the wider are broad. The broader are, what does it say? I'm lost right now. No, the greater the base, the broader the sides of the pyramid, right? Which it leads for the higher point of freedom. So if everything, and that's why I said earlier that it's a square, man. Like the square base, and it says it in here. Because it's all about balance. If you're an addict like me, you understand that balance is almost an illusion. Right? The only thing I'm good at balancing is my checkbook and some wood. Right? Besides that, I can't balance much. Right? The only way I could find balance is to get so far out of balance that it's forced upon me. Right? So like so if I'm working all sides of that pyramid and everything's working together, I'm reaching this point that's up here, man. And once I'm doing too much service, right? I'm speaking at too many places. I'm taking commitments. I'm doing this. I'm putting Narcotics Anonymous commitments above myself, which is the other side, man. I'm not taking care of Josh because I want to take care of all this stuff and I want to be Mr. Narcotics Anonymous, right? It pushes that pyramid off to the side and kilters it, man. And no longer, because if it's standing straight, we're reaching this point. Once it starts to lean off a little bit, I'm not reaching as high as I used to reach, man. Right? It's just, I'm not doing it. And it happens in all areas of my life all the time, man. Like I could get locked and loaded and worry too much about self and not worry about the newcomer, right? Right? Because I suffer from a disease, which the core of it is self-obsession, man. Right? Everything is about Josh, right? I don't care about Tony, right? The most important person in this meeting. What I care about is Josh, man. And I'll be straight up half the time, 90% of the time, straight up, 90% of the time, I always have ulterior motives, man. Right? I'm always doing something probably not spiritual in my head, bro. I can't find selfless service half the time, man. Right? Whether it is trying to do the right thing for the right reason at any given moment, I still have to be a little selfish about it, man. But then when I get too self-locked and loaded, then I'm slacking on God, man. Or I'm slacking on society, right? And like I own the construction business, and when I work too much on society, or I want to help everybody out and worry about what's going on outside over there, and I'm not worried about God over here, and I've stopped praying as much as I usually do, I get off balance and I get off kilter. So like that's why the symbol, I can try to relate everything back to it, man. Like it says in the Living Clean, I'll break out Living Clean right here. It says, the journey continues, page 172. Each of our relationships teach us how to make our other relationships better, stronger, and more meaningful. If we stop and listen for lessons, and all of these relationships in turn bring us back to our relationships with ourselves. We cannot say that one is more important than the other. Like, so I can't say that me speaking all of these places, me doing this H&I commitment, me wanting to pick up all these sponsees, right? I can't say that that's more important than me praying 5 times a day and trying to get that conscious contact, right? And I can't say that me working 90 hours a week and wanting to make all the money is more important, right, than trying to help out the newcomer, right? Or trying to be a productive member of society. Like, I can't say that. It all has to equal out, right? So we cannot say that one is more important than the other, any more than we could say one side of a pyramid is more important than the next, In fact, the pyramid that is in our symbol is made up of relationships with self, society, service, and God, rooted in a base of goodwill. These are the relationships that bring us to a point of freedom. Our capacity to love grows in the proportion to the effort we make. Right? The Living Clean also talks about, like, we don't think our way into a new way of living. We live our way into a new way of thinking. Right? Narcotics Anonymous is a program of action, not theory. What I put into Narcotics Anonymous is what I get out of it. Right? What I put into my relationship with God is what I get out of it. What I put in my relationship with my best friend is what I get out of it. What I put in my relationship with my girlfriend is what I get out of it. Right? Everything, every reaction, every action has a reaction. Right? I don't want to break out physics, but that's just the bottom line, right? Everything that I do has a consequence, whether it's good or bad at any given moment. Right? And all the relationships tie in together. Like, by reading this literature and working steps and applying traditions and studying concepts, like, I've grasped some knowledge here that it's my responsibility to give it away, man. Like, a lot of people, not judge me, but a lot of people ridicule me about how big and how literature-based I am, right? And, like, it's a joke in my area. They call me Deputy D. And they're like, oh, Josh is going to say on page 82 and page 80. Like, listen, man. When I was using drugs, I would do anything and go to any lengths in order to use, right? So I do the same thing in my recovery, man. My routine is strategic every morning, man. If anybody knows me personally, they know I read a lot of literature every morning. I pray every morning, and my day depends on it. Because I suffer from a disease which is spiritual, right? So my solution has to be spiritual in nature, because the disease of addiction is spiritual, right? I'm self-centered to the core, man. So, like, there's things that I do every day on a daily basis that I have to do in order to fight the warfare that I'm about to go through every day, man. Like, it don't matter how much clean time we have. We all go through struggles, man. Listen, I'm going through struggles right now with my girlfriend, bro. Like, I'm going through the struggle right now, and right away I want to act out on it, man. Right? I want to shift all that weight over to the self side of the pyramid, right? And I want to, because Josh ain't going to get what he wants, because really, I'm a scared little boy that I'm not going to get what I want, because it's deeply rooted in self-centered fear, right? And so, because I'm not going to get what I want, I'm going to do what I got to do to make myself feel better. I'm going to fill this void with this void. I'm going to try to fill a God-sized hole with everything but God and try to live my life, man. And, like, that's not how I want to live today, man. I want to stay in this symbol, right? I want to stay in the symbol. It's like, there's another excerpt from the Living Clean. It's on page 18. It says, we find here what we were looking for our whole lives. Connections to others, which is society. Connections to a higher power, which is God. Connections to the world around us, right? And connections to ourselves, right? So, like, everything is a connection, man. And once I pick up a drug, the connection gets severed right away. I was told to stop at 9:15, so it's 9:15. If you really didn't get anything out of that, I apologize. Like, it's not my usual share. You know, it was it's an understanding of what I get out of the symbol, right? If you didn't get anything out of it, I suggest that you look up the symbol whenever you have some free time and define words and put them together. Like, because what do you have to lose? Like, I didn't have nothing to lose, right? I didn't have nothing to lose by doing a little bit of work, man. I had everything to gain, right? Because, listen, everybody, if we keep coming back, right? You hear the keep coming back, right? Keep coming back, right? Like, I had to do some work, man. I had to do some work. Right? So, like, keep coming back is great, man. But like the suggestions that they read off of here, I'm not going to go with those. I'll go with the ones that are what can I do, man. It's go to a meeting a day for 90 days, man, because I'm a creature of habit. I had to go to a meeting a day for 90 days for the obsession to stop. I had to get phone numbers and I had to use them, right? Because the therapeutic value of one addict helping another is without parallel. When my ass was on fire and I had to call Nick or I had to call my sponsor to talk me off the ledge, he did. We must smash the illusion that we could do it alone. Self-sufficiency is absolutely a lie. We get a home group, man, I felt a part of. I'm part of an intimate home group, Boys and Men, Forest Area, Narcotics Anonymous. Man, it's a closed, intimate men's meeting, and I don't care, but I can get more vulnerable when there's only men in the room. Because when there's women around, my pride comes in and my ego takes place, and I want to look the part, right? So when I got the men's meeting, I became a part of and I created these relationships that we talk about in the symbol. Everything is a cultivation of another relationship in my life. The next thing is I get a sponsor, man. This is a 12-step program, right? The steps are a solution. They're also our best guarantee against relapse, man. When you guys go out and you buy your PS5s or you buy your friggin' new cars, you want guarantees that something that it's going to stick, right? So why not get a guarantee against relapse, man, and work the steps of Narcotics Anonymous? You can't work I couldn't work the steps of Narcotics Anonymous without a sponsor, man. We got a sponsorship IP up here, man. Read it. It'll define what a sponsor is, man. And then the fifth suggestion is, most importantly, we don't use. It don't matter what I got going on in my life today. I do not use over it, man. I share this a lot. I share it a lot because it's the most important thing that I deal with in my life on a daily basis. I haven't seen my daughter in 7 years, regardless how long I've been clean. I haven't seen my daughter in 7 years or talked to her, right? But I don't use over it, man. I reach out to Nick and I talk to Nick about it. I reach out to my sponsor and I talk to my sponsor about it. I share about it on a consistent basis because every time I share about it, it frees me on another level. Right? It doesn't matter that somebody so close to my heart that I love relapses, right? Over and over. I don't use over it, man. It don't matter what I got going on. I don't use over it. And you know why I don't use over it? Because I followed the first 4 suggestions that we just talked about. It was just that simple and has been that simple in my life. Right? So like on page 79, Recovering Relapse, it says that we have never seen a person who lives the Narcotics Anonymous program relapse. If you want another guarantee, go define the word never. Because they ain't never seen it. This fellowship has been around since 1953 in dozens of languages, hundreds of countries, almost 100 years, and they have never seen anybody relapse that lives the program. So as long as I keep living the program to the best of my ability, I won't ever have to relapse, and neither will any of you guys, man. So thanks for letting me share.